Yo, YouTube, what's up? It's me, the most consistent YouTuber to post history content. I know in the last video I said the next video would be about democracy or something, but I think that Battle of Hastings is more interesting. So let's get into the video. The Battle of Hastings was a battle which occurred in 1066 when King Edward the Confessor died without an heir. Since he had no successors to the throne, there were three men who all wanted to be the next king of England. The first man was William of Normandy. He claimed that Edward had promised him the throne in 1051 when Edward was in exile in Normandy because the Vikings had taken over England. During his stay in Normandy, he became good friends with William, and that's when he promised him the throne. The second man was Harald Hardrada. He was a Norwegian mercenary who would fight for the highest pay. He had fought in numerous wars and gotten extremely wealthy from all of that. Once he returned to Norway after winning all his battles, he became the king. His reason for wanting to rule England was that the previous Norwegian king had made a deal with the Viking king who ruled England at the time that the next king would be a Norwegian king. The third man who wanted to be king of England was Harold Godwinson. Harold Godwinson was King Edward's brother-in-law, as well as a great warrior who had helped King Edward fight the Welsh. He also claimed that the throne was promised to him. However, during his visit to Normandy, he swore on holy relics that he would let William be king. But when King Edward was in his deathbed, Harold Godwinson forgot about his promise and crowned himself the king the same day that King Edward died. Once news that Harold Godwinson had crowned himself king reached William, he was furious. In spite of that, he couldn't just kill Harold Godwinson, as people in medieval Europe thought that killing kings was unacceptable, as they were chosen by God. So William went to the Pope to get himself the permission he needed to go against Harold by saying that Harold Godwinson had sworn on holy relics that he would be the next king. Once he had permission of the Pope to kill the king, he was ready to invade England, so he gathered his army on the north of Normandy, ready to attack. Meanwhile, Harold Godwinson gathered his army, waited for them at the south of England. Although everything was ready, there was one problem. The wind was blowing south, and England was north of Normandy, so they had to wait until the wind blew north. The English waited for months on end, and after waiting so long, Harold headed back and disbanded his army as they had run out of food. While this was happening, Harald Hardrada and his Viking army were all sailing south from Norway to the north of England and landed in York. Godwinson had just disbanded his army, and now he had to get them all back together again and had to march all the way from London to York. He marched this great distance only within 4 days, and his army was completely exhausted when they reached there. He met Harald Hardrada's army completely unprepared in the Battle of the Stamford Bridge. One Viking held the bridge all by himself, killing anyone who tried to cross the narrow bridge. He was eventually killed by one of the English, who went in a barrel under the bridge and stabbed him with a spear. Even after this, the Norwegians were completely unprepared, as some didn't even have their helmets on. Harald Hardrada and his army were easily defeated by the English, ending the rule of Vikings in England. As Godwinson defeated the Vikings, the wind had just turned north, meaning the Normans could now invade England. William's army of 14,000 landed in Pevensey and set up camp in Hastings. The already exhausted English had to march all the way from York back to Hastings. They set up camp on top of a hill and made a shield wall. The Normans used everything they had to try and break the shield wall, but they didn't succeed. They used archers, infantry, and even cavalry. Nothing seemed to work. But eventually, William developed a strategy. The Normans would act as if they were retreating and running away, so the English would break their shield wall to chase after them and hunt them down. Once they broke their shield wall and came down the hill, the Normans circled them and managed to kill all of the English troops and along with them Harold Godwinson. It was this strategy that the Normans used that helped them defeat the English in the Battle of Hastings. After William defeated Godwinson and put out many riots, he was eventually crowned the King of England and given the title William the Conqueror.